Welcome. My name's Renee LaValle McKenna, and I'm here with Matt from Florida. And I'm a therapist and shamanic healer working in spiritual psychology. And Matt and I are going to do a connection with spirit guides today. And so, what is your perspective or interest in spirit guide connection, Matt?
For the longest time, I think probably since I've been a kid, I've always been kind of curious about the spirit world and always knew that there was something more than what we're doing today. I used to see things every once in a while. I would see my grandmother around the house every once in a while, or my parents' dog that passed away. I'd feel things. I'd have really vivid dreams, or I'd wake up and see things. It's just kind of like always been something around, but it's always kind of like goes in and out. And lately I just been a little bit more connected to it. And I don't know, there's something like that's drawing me towards the spirit guide world. And I talk to my spirit guides, but I think one of my biggest challenges that I'm facing right now is that I don't know if it's the ego or if it truly is things that I'm seeing or hearing or feeling, right? So it's like I don't know if I have full clarity or understanding of exactly what I'm doing, if it really makes sense, and if I'm just kind of going crazy.
Well, unlikely. Well, I don't know. Maybe you are crazy, but working with the spirit world is certainly not crazy. Although there are kind of crazy aspects to it. And so just like this is my experience and perspective, just like in ordinary reality, there's a range of different levels of consciousness that we can find here, all the way from the incredibly loving and unconditionally compassionate, wonderful people and places that we can go and connect with, all the way through completely selfish and dishonest and even might harm us, right? And so the same is true actually in non-ordinary reality, that there are a range of consciousnesses available to us. And I like to say, just because it doesn't have a body doesn't mean it's enlightened. So there is some pause or some care from my perspective that is helpful and some wisdom and some guidance when tooling around in non-ordinary reality. And so what I have found to be the most direct portal to higher consciousness, that is wisdom and energy that has our highest good in mind, that understands the interconnection and the unified being of all things, is nature. And so, and when we're connecting, well, at least I'll say we in this, what we're doing today, we want to connect with higher consciousness that has wisdom and power and guidance and evolution and highest good in mind. And so, and when we connect with that level of consciousness or resonance, then it actually gives us kind of a solid ground to start to measure other things against. And it's one of the real benefits of having a high level spirit guide or a set or system of high level spiritual connections, is that then we have a place we can go, which is trustworthy, where we can bring contested energy or questions and balance it against that. Like, is this true? Or is this, am I going crazy? Is this like a helpful thing? Or is this something that's harmful? Does that make sense? Just like if we start dating someone and we have a bad feeling about them, we might want to ask someone who knows them, like, what's this person really like? Do you know what I mean? Just to get some extra, like, oh no, they're actually nice. And it's like, oh yeah, that's my projection from my ex who cheated on me or whatever. Or, oh no, actually, I know they happened to beat up their last wife. And now, you know what I mean? Like, so does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Right. So, I mean, it's always good. I've been doing personal growth work for decades and decades, and I have actually more advisors and people that I bring things to for advice now than I ever have in my life, because I've come to realize the value of having all these trusted advisors that add, not that anybody's telling me what to do, but they add to my own resources for knowledge and making choices. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to have that panel that you can work with.
Yes. And spiritual help, particularly when we work in this very conscious or mystical way, where we're working with spirit guides, we're working with universal mind directly through these different forms. It adds to our resources for knowledge and insight and information. Right. And so, but we want to be careful what's adding to us, right? And make sure,
Yes.
and really we can tell the best litmus test is how we feel. Like, does this feel trustworthy? Do I feel calm? Do I feel peaceful? Do I feel grounded? Do I feel joy or loved? Or, you know, that openness, like the felt experience in our body is a really, really important source of information, particularly when working in non-physical reality.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I could actually kind of go back to a point where I felt like I was getting almost misinformation.
Yes.
And I remember that feeling of like, I don't know about this, but I guess I should share it. And it was like, I just felt wrong. Like it didn't feel right. So I think I know exactly what you mean there.
So that kind of experience, that's one of the things that working in non-ordinary reality, or in these more non-rational, not irrational, non-rational ways of gathering and knowing information, which is more intuitive, more body-centered, more kinesthetic or emotional felt experience, is developing that trust with our own different senses and these other aspects of ourself as well. So to come to trust those feelings, which a lot of times through dysfunction in our families or our culture, or just the system where we're supposed to be nice to everybody, right? We will override some of our own instincts, that little small voice that's like, don't do this. And then we go, shh, you know, and we override it, and we usually regret that later, right?
Yeah.
So particularly when working in the spirit realm, it is an excellent idea to always trust that. And I have come to really value the shamanic system, or paradigm of understanding the non-physical world. It's very simple, and it has three parts. The middle world, which is where we are now, which is contested space. Not everything that happens here is trustworthy. We can say that. And the upper realm or the lower realm, or the upper world or the lower world. And so in the shamanic system, we travel out of ordinary reality, which also includes, I think, some aspects of non-physical reality, like the astral plane, and go into a place, particularly in nature, where, again, we're in a place of very high consciousness that understands the unity of all things. There's no, trees don't lie, you know, grass doesn't have an agenda, water doesn't have selfishness, right? They're just available to, and they're part of our own systems as well, right? So connecting through nature tends to be a really easily accessible doorway to be able to get to these realms of really trustworthy higher consciousness. And so that tends to be, the lower realm is nature spirits, and the upper world tends to be teachers in human form and more of the celestial realm, although certainly there are natural realms in the upper world as well. And so from my perspective, it's almost just twofold, which is that we're in the middle world, and then we're surrounded actually with higher consciousness, which actually is certainly intrinsic and infused in what we are now. And a lot of times it's our misunderstanding that causes the aberrations and the dysfunction that we have, that we are actually connected. I won't wax too philosophical about all that, but so the safest place to do work, particularly as a beginner, is to go to the lower world or the upper world, where for sure everything is trustworthy. And then we can start to get a sense, or again, we have some resources there that we can bounce things off of when we start to do work in the middle world. And actually, we're always doing work in the middle world because this is where we live.
Yeah. So what's like the, no, I wouldn't say the dangers, but I guess the watch outs for the middle world type of work? Like, why would you start upper and lower, not the middle?
So you wouldn't start in the middle because, well, so let me say it this way. Do you have children?
Yep.
Okay. How old are they?
He's 15.
Okay. So excellent. So I have 2 kids too, and they're both teenagers. And so when my children started to learn to walk, and when they were first moving out into the world, I didn't let them go to the store by themselves. I would bring them to the park, supervised, and then they could learn to play with other people so that they learned, and they could start to choose who was nice and who was not nice to play with, because not everybody in the playground is nice, right? And so, or not everybody do you want your kids playing with, right? And so, but over time, and certainly once they get older, then they start to take the bus by themselves or they walk by themselves, because they've gathered the information that they need to be able to navigate the world. And now, you know, my son actually is on a bus. He just took a bus to Washington, D.C. to visit some friends, and he's coming back at 2:00 in the morning, and he's perfectly capable of navigating New York and Washington, D.C. by himself, but he wasn't doing that when he was 5.
Good
Does that
call.
make sense? Does that make sense? So again, not like, but to be honest about where we are in our knowledge of different realms of reality, right? And if I'm a novice in non-ordinary reality, then I probably want to be careful and have some supervision and to start in a safe place first, rather than to just jump out onto the bus.
Yeah, but I guess as far as like the middle world, what's like the what's the dangers of that?
So the dangers of middle world spiritual work are that not everything has our highest good in mind. There are a lot of energetic forms here that are really low resonance, just like there are with people. So there's people that will, if you walk down the street, there's people that will help you if you drop your purse, and there's people who will grab it and run away with it. Right.
Okay. And in the upper and lower world, they're just it's the higher consciousness.
In the upper and lower world, if you drop your purse, everyone there will help you.
Okay. I love that analogy. That's great.
Because in the upper and lower world, at least in the realms that we're going to work with today, and different aspects of shamanism, again, there are myriad realms of consciousness, but in the realms that I work with, they're very high levels of consciousness. And so that's where we go. Again, there's just like you can go to lots of different neighborhoods and different things will happen. You can do that in non-ordinary reality as well. So we're going to the wisest place first, and then we can start to tool around in the more contested spaces. And so the danger here's probably the simplest danger, is that a lot of energy that is low resonance, it's kind of based in fear, and feeds on suffering, just to tell you that. And so it's very easy for that energy is looking for a home and something to feed on, and because it's not actually connected with higher consciousness as its source. And so, and the human body and the human psyche and our energy systems are kind of prime real estate. And so it's very easy for energies to attach themselves to us. And I mean, there's a lot to be said. This doesn't just happen. There's no victims in the world. I don't believe that. So, if things attach themselves to us, there's usually something that we have to do with that, but we don't need to. Again, I don't wear all my gold jewelry if I walk through a bad neighborhood. Just not smart to do that, because I'm asking for trouble. So there's I spend most of my work is shadow work in the middle world. And being in a grounded, compassionate place is always a safe place to be. But, and there is tons and tons of middle world work, and to help elevate the consciousness, both of those who have bodies and those things that don't. But we want to, when working with non-physical reality, it's good, just like when a surgeon does surgery, they wear gloves and masks and all kinds of stuff to protect themselves, because they don't want to pick up anything that is unsavory. It's the same thing. We just wanted these layers of protection that we can have so that we can stay safe and grounded and know what we're dealing with. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because some things actually can make us sick. I mean, I can tell you lots and lots and lots of story. And a lot of sickness actually could be in defensive structures, and a lot of the issues we have could be seen as what I call energetic interference, or different stuff we've picked up, just like if you eat bad food, right?
Mhm.
And it'll make you sick. So, but once we have some of this grounding, some of this awareness and conscious connection, then we have a lot more resources to be able to do that safely.
Okay.
There's a whole, I have a year-long mentorship program about, I mean, this is decades of study about how to move in the non-physical world. There's lots of great material out there. There's lots of crappy material out there too, but
I love it. Yeah.
Well, let me give you just one example. So for example, I had a client come, and she's a brilliant musician, and but she was having trouble writing, and she had this thing that would happen to her where this energy would kind of come, and it would give her music. It would give her songs. Songs. It would give her the words and the music. But when that happened, she would go almost a little bit non-functioning, and then she would feel like really kind of nauseous and sick for like a day or so after. And, and she would smoke a lot of pot, and usually like have to drink a little bit, or even take some Adderall or something to kind of get herself back up after. So it was this whole kind of like experience. Although she was like, oh no, it's really cool though, because I get all this music from this. And I said, well, do you ask for when that's going to happen? Like, how do you make that happen? She said, no, it just happens to me. Like, I don't know when it's going to happen. It just happens to me. And then I just go with it, and I get these songs. And I was like, well, so we started to talk about this more, like, how's that working for you? And she was like, well, when we really looked at it, like the downside was all of this cleanup she had to do, and she kind of felt sick, and it also would happen to her, like she had no control over it. So there was a particular feeling that would happen in her body when she had this happen. And so we went into that feeling in her body and asked what it was. And it was a dead musician, believe it or not. And she thought it was kind of cool. Like, oh, he's like a spirit guy. And in fact, she kind of had a sense, because it was somebody that she really liked his music. Now, unfortunately, this was a musician who had killed himself. And so this wasn't someone that was like super healthy in real life either, right? Yeah. And so when we went into, we actually were able to have a dialogue, which is a very interesting thing. Not everything can you have a full dialogue with, but we were able to have a dialogue with this spirit guide that was a musician for her. And he had an agenda. Like, he didn't actually care about her very much. He wanted to like make music, and he actually fed on her getting high, and he fed on her life energy. Was this really, that was like, what do you feed on?
He was living through her.
Basically. He was living through her when he felt like it. Like, he would just come, and she had no control over it. And he'd kind of give her a song in order to be able to get high and have a little human experience for a while. And so when I, I mean, it's up to her. Like, is this something you want to keep or not? And she was like, oh, it's a little creepy. Like, when she really got conscious about what was happening, it was a little creepy. And especially that realizing there was a selfishness and a motive involved for this other thing, even though it was telling her it was helping her out. So nothing can live in our psychic space without our permission. That is a spiritual truth. And so, she decided, I don't think I want to keep this anymore. And so we were able, and I think this is called psychopomp, it's called the escorting of souls, that this was actually because of his suicide, he had actually gotten caught in the middle world. An aspect of his spirit had gotten caught in the middle world. And he was kind of going from person to person doing this kind of interesting thing that he was doing. And And so we were able to help him move into the next place, through a portal of light. And he actually, when we asked him, like, are you happy? And he was like, not really. So
he wanted to go.
He wasn't really, because he's not really supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So we escorted him to the next place, and he had some guides come through and took him to the next place, which was, that's a nice, like, I think we helped move him in his own evolution. And then we sat with her and actually asked a higher level spirit guide to come that could help her with her own music and to connect and as a muse for music for her that had no agenda except to bring beauty and love and into the world. And so her music actually changed a little bit because the music that she had been making was a little bit edgy. For her, like, it was dark. It was about suffering and sadness. And so the quality of her music actually changed a little bit. But as I continued to work with her, she was really, really happy with the change. And she didn't have this thing happening anymore where there was like a payment for it was just kind of a win-win. And her own creativity really expanded as well. That's a long story, but
it's awesome. Yeah.
So is it a terrible thing? I don't know. There are actually very, very dangerous non-physical elements that tell people to harm themselves and harm others and are really, I mean, it's a very interesting thing to consider even some aspects of mental illness as spirit attachment. All the way through, again, like incredibly inspired, enlightened, benevolent. We want to be on this end.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you.
Yeah. So it's a big study. It's a whole, and there's a lot of different perspectives. I have only my own limited experience, but anyway. So this is like a guided visualization. I call it an inner journey. And so you're going to be totally aware of what's happening. You're going to be able to talk to me to describe your experience. Our physical body is only one of the many aspects of consciousness that we have, and we all have access to higher consciousness. It's right here all the time, right? Just like we're connected with nature and the elements all the time. Whether we're aware, we're held to the earth by gravity. We might not think about that. We're breathing in and out every moment. Like, the connection is always there. And this is about making it more conscious. So we're going to go into your body, and then we're going to go to the spiritual aspect of nature in whatever way it wants to present itself to you. It may be in the form of a place or a space that you've been before, or it may be someplace new. We're going to go to a beautiful and safe, even sacred place in nature, the spiritual aspect, a place where no one can come without your permission. So I'm going to guide you to that place, however it presents itself. And then in that space, we're going to ask for a spirit guide, your primary spirit guide, to present themselves in whatever form is most helpful for you. And so it may be a light or a color or a sound. It may be one of the elements of this place, like water or rock or sun or tree. It may come in the form of a creature. It may come in the form of a wise being, a religious, or even an ancestor or a mythical figure. And so we're just going to be open and see what presents itself. And like I was saying, and then particularly, I'm going to ask you a couple different times, like, how does this feel in your body? We want to check out and see how you feel. And then we're going to ask it some questions. And see if there's anything that it wants to teach you or communicate with you right now.
What happens if there's like no one that comes?
So again, higher consciousness is always available to us. And so it's not, that is generally an intellectual concern about wanting to do things right and get an A in getting a spirit guide, and you don't need to worry about that. So the thing about this work is that anything that happens is information. And one of the simplest places, and a place that I bring most people, is actually to connect with elements. So there are always elements available, because we have all the elements connected with us all the time. And elements are tremendous resources for power and wisdom and healing. Water is, where our own bodies are 50-60% water. The rest of our bodies are composed of the other minerals and compounds that make up the earth. And some understand our life force as the light of the sun or the moon. And so there's all, it's all actually like a fractal. Like every one of our cells holds the DNA for our whole system. Any place we go, we can connect with universal mind. So, and that's my job, because I'm really good at this. So,
all right, cool. Well, I have done journeying before, just to kind of full disclosure. I've kind of done shamanic journeying on my own through guided meditations before, and I also have used the pendulum to try and also communicate with spirit guides. So I kind of have that base in there. I don't know how that affects anything, but I also kind of started mapping out my spirit guides, like, and almost how they all connect. So, like, I have a team of 12 or so, plus about 3 spirit animals. And I've been trying to figure out who does what and how long they've been with me and all those other good things over the last couple of years, maybe now.
Awesome. And so that's a lot of guides, actually. So you have a lot of experience. And so who is your most trusted guide?
His name is Pak.
Okay.
He is a Native American Indian. He came to me 7 years ago?
Okay.
So he's probably my most trusted guide that I've been talking to a lot. And then he just brought in a guy named Michael, who is a higher level than him. And so Pak usually sends shivers down my sides. And Michael will send a very warm sensation down my sides, almost like in a movement, like a circle. So, like, I'll feel warmth around my head when Michael is communicating, or it seems like he gets my extremities a lot, like my hands or my feet. He'll warm those up.
Okay.
And so he's been the one that's been there the most recently. And then these other folks, kind of just folks, I don't know, spirits come in and out, and they have weird names, and I don't understand exactly why they're here or what they're doing, but they are here to support me.
Okay.
And Michael,
and how have you connected with them?
Through journeying. So doing just shamanic journeying a bit. I see Pak there a lot. And then also, like, I have a letterboard and a pendulum, and I'll communicate with them with letterboard and pendulum occasionally if I can't understand what they're trying to say to me in my journey.
Okay. And when you journey to them, how do you travel? Do you travel up or down or both?
Yeah, both. So I usually go, it's probably almost 50-50. I think I seem to go down a lot more than going up.
And do you have certain guides you find in certain places when you go down, and certain guides you find when you go up, or are they?
Yeah. Pak is usually down. Lately he's been saying he's by his wigwam.
Okay.
That keeps on coming through. Like, I can't, every time I use the pendulum, by my wigwam, by my wigwam. He keeps on saying the same thing over and over again. But usually my vision of him is usually in a field near a fire, and there's 3 big, like, tree trunks on the floor that we sit on. But he's usually in the lower world. And then Michael is upper world, in front of the Akashic records.
Okay. And do you have guides that know about the Akashic records?
Michael.
Okay. And have you been working with him through about those at all?
Just starting to. So he just came to me like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So I've been trying to get to the Akashic records, and I think I've gotten there a couple of times alone. And maybe Pak, I think Pak was behind me, and this other spirit guide named Yaya. And also my my wife's grandmother, who passed away.
Okay.
She's taken me there.
Okay.
And kicked me out.
Interesting. Do you know why?
I think she's like, I know enough.
Okay. How is it to hear that?
I'm sorry?
How is it to hear that you know enough?
Not satisfying, I guess, but it made me laugh.
And
She's
what
like,
is it you want to know?
at the time was my wife has a hard time sleeping, and she wakes up the same time every single night. So I was trying to figure out health wise, what do we need to do? Because I feel like there might be something like underlying.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she wakes 2 a.m. in the morning almost every single day, which usually, like, if you look at the circadian rhythm, that's probably around the kidney area.
Right.
Yeah. So I was just trying to figure out exactly what was wrong. But I think she gave me some just confidence. Everything's okay. You know enough. You can go. In a very sweet way.
And how do you feel about grandma?
I love her.
Is she trustworthy?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's interesting that you would ask, what if nothing comes, having 12 guides already?
I feel like there's a lot of pressure here right now. So all of a sudden, it's just
No.
I'm gonna go.
Well, so
burning.
here's the thing. So with this many guys, so here's the real thing, which is, what would you like to get out of this work today?
I wrote down to gain confidence in my ability to communicate with my spirit guides and to become connected with my higher self.
So where do you feel like you lack confidence? Oh,
I lack confidence in trusting that I know.
say more. Trusting that you know what?
That this is real, right? So it's like getting the burning sensation down my leg. Well, is that real, or is this something that is just kind of a sensation and just move on? Like, is it just, I don't know, biology, or is there actually a spirit that is brushing my leg, that's warming it up? Are the things that I'm hearing in my intuition truly intuitive thoughts coming from spirit guides, or is it just my inner talk? So I want to have more confidence in that.
And what's the difference?
One is I think derived by ego and not necessarily true. And I want to make sure that I'm getting accurate information that's going to help me serve others better.
And so have you tested that?
I don't know how to test it really.
Do you ask for information?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you get?
Sometimes I get answers. Other times, it's kind of garbled a little bit, or I'm not really sure what exactly it means. I'm
Well,
trying to think of
so
like a situation. I'm trying to think of like a specific example for you, but like my mind goes blank at the moment. But yes, sometimes like I'll get a message and I don't know what they're trying to say.
right. So what I hear actually, Matt, is that this is about your own self-development. That there's still a split between your intellect and your intuition, between your rational and your non-rational, or the physical and the metaphysical.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Which is a very common Western split, that only the things that we can see, you see with our regular five senses, are real. And then everything else is not real.
Yeah.
right? And so if our conceptual mind can understand it, then it's real. And if our conceptual mind can't, then it's not real. And we're making it up. Right?
Yes.
Is that, and then so then there's some kind of a fantasy aspect to that, or delusion, right?
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Okay.
Yes.
So that gap between the physical and the metaphysical is generally, like you said, it's a gap of fear, which is another way to say lack of confidence, or a gap of distrust, right? A gap of, it's a not grounded place, right? And personal development work is like creating a corpus callosum. Do you know that that's the thing that connects the two parts of our brain, the right brain and the left brain, the corpus? It's like a bridge, right?
Yeah.
So developing that bridge, that ability to be able to use all the information that we can receive, to be able to function in the world. So it feels like the trust is actually the issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So rather than, I have to say, you can gather as many spirit guides as you want, and that is not going to develop your trust.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like if I have financial insecurity and don't trust that I will be cared for, it doesn't matter how much money I have in the bank, I will always have financial insecurity. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because the money's not the thing.
Yeah, I don't think the goal is to collect spirit guides,
right?
But I think it's more like just trying to build that relationship with them, or get more validation. I think maybe that's exactly what I'm looking for. Is like, what are those things that I can validate that makes me just feel a little bit more trustworthy of it? Like, and I got one the other day that was very, I guess, rewarding, which was Michael said that on the pendulum, because I couldn't understand it in the journey, was "You are Yawanawa," and I had no clue what that meant at all. But then he said, "Read Yawanawa." So I was, okay, let me just Google this and see what this is, and it happened to be a tribe in South America, in Brazil. That's still there, and they do a lot of shamanic journeying.
Okay.
So I felt like that was okay, cool. There's definitely something to be said about that. If, this is the journey that I've been on for a while, and they're telling me that, hey, look up Yawanawa, Google Yawanawa, I think that's pretty good sign. So that's kind of like, a moment of, okay, I think I'm on the right path.
So just like it's important, I think, to be grounded in both physical and metaphysical reality. It's important for our external development to be comparable to our internal development, right? And so developing, and we're all, I tend to look at people like a big mixing board. Have you ever seen a big audio mixing board if you've ever been to a show? And it has all the different toggles on it, right? And things are at different settings. Some of them are turned all the way up and some of them are turned all the way down. And we all have all myriad levels of development within us. Some are really highly developed, some are really underdeveloped, right? And so, and the places where we're underdeveloped, that's where we want to grow. And growing in our ability to trust is a place that most modern humans could grow. This doesn't mean growing in, I'm going to trust everything. It's growing in knowing what discernment.
Yeah.
Right? So that when I know what's trustworthy and I know what's not trustworthy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's actually what the whole beginning part of this conversation is about, is that a lot of us don't actually have that knowing of what's trustworthy and what's not trustworthy. That's why when we begin journey work, it's better to go to non-ordinary reality where we can really trust, with like Michael and the native guide that you have. And I'm going to assume some of the spirit animals that you have too, like they're trustworthy, right? Grandma's trustworthy. Right. So we want to start there rather than with the musician, like my friend was hanging around with.
Yeah.
Because if we can't tell the difference, we're screwed to some extent. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, and some of our development is if there's things that are actually trustworthy and we're not trusting them, that's kind of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, like we're missing an opportunity for depth and surrender and personal expansion and growth.
Yeah.
To be able to be open, because trust allows us to be open to actually receive and to allow ourselves to be changed and evolve and develop.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than getting screamed at by a spirit guide to do something, or take this message and just leaving it there because you don't trust it. It's an opportunity to grow.
Right.
Mhm.
Or, I mean, it's like the idea of pearls before swine. Like we may be getting fabulous information, but if we don't do anything with it, like, so what?
Yeah.
Right. So then it's useless. Right. So how do we embody, again, this is the physical and the metaphysical. How do we embody the information and actually manifest it into our lives in a helpful and useful way? Otherwise, we're just playing around, and which is fine if you want to just play around. But I don't know. We get, we only get a little bit of time here, and I'd like to use it as well as possible. So I think actually that there's a deeper piece of work here, which is really about your relationship with trust.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And growing in the ability, again, I know, because I got to tell you, I come from all kinds of craziness. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. I'm an ex-criminal. I know about distrust, both as being a distrustworthy person and have hung out with many. and I didn't trust anybody. Period. End of conversation. And over time. But the thing is, though, what happens with that is I was completely defended. I'm not saying this is you. I was completely defended. And so I was missing the opportunity to open myself to love, compassion, wisdom, higher guidance, development by not trusting anything. Now, maybe I kept myself safe because I knew the lower end of the spectrum, but I was also keeping myself in a prison and debilitated because I wasn't accessing the higher realm.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right. So, I mean, you have this here. It's like, so here's this banquet, but you're like, I don't know if I can really eat this food.
Mm-hmm.
Is this really food? Maybe it's not food. This is a banquet. So here we are. And there's a banquet, and you're not actually necessarily getting all of the nourishment from the meal that is available.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, but you're here. I mean, you're here, and I know you're interested, right? So if you so we're gonna do a piece of work, and let's see, to bring some insight, information, transformation, and healing to your own relationship with trust. Okay. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay. So if you take a minute right now, Matt, and I take notes. That's what I'm doing over here. I'm not texting people. I'm a copious note taker. It helps me stay track what's happening. So if you take a minute and just ground yourself, if I say call your guides into the room with you right now, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Can you hear me? You froze a minute.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Call my guides into the room. Absolutely.
Yep. So take a minute, call your guides into the room.
Okay.
And take all the time you need.
Do you want me to do this verbally or?
Well, so just take a minute and call it in so you can sense and feel and imagine them. Okay. And then when you feel or sense those connections, let me know who's here and where they are in relation to you in the room.
I feel vibrations behind my ears. I feel like there's 3 behind me.
Do you know who they are?
Pac. Warm sensation on my shoulders from Michael. And Michelangelo. He's been with me since birth.
Any animal guides?
My owl on my shoulder. And my bobcat by my leg.
Okay. And how does it feel to have them here in this way?
Very strong, very warm. And I'm kind of tearing for some reason. I don't know why.
So we're just going to be open and just let energy or feelings flow. And so I wonder, Matt, if you can sense or feel or imagine where this conflict of trust or distrust lives in your body. How do you experience this trust or distrust experience in your body? Doesn't have to make any sense, just whatever comes up.
It's like a visceral type of pain in my gut.
Mm-hmm.
Like low, like below the right on the belly or below the belly button.
And is it more on the right or the left, the front or the back?
Front.
And if it had like a color or a shape or a density, again, it doesn't have to make any sense, just whatever comes up. Might be a solid, a jelly, a liquid, or a gas. What color?
It's getting like a hunter green.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, yeah, I'm just getting like a solid wall of green.
And does that solid wall of green go all the way down into your pelvis and groin, all the way up like to your ribs, or where does it live in your body?
It's going like from the start of my torso, so right below my belly button, above the root chakra,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes to like right about the heart.
Okay. And so I wonder, Matt, and your guides can help with this if needed, if you can sense or feel or imagine that you could move the energy of this kind of solid wall of hunter green out of your body, and it personifies itself in the room with limbs and a head and face. So you're going to move this hunter green wall out of your body, and it's going to personify itself with limbs and a head and face. And what size would it be? Doesn't have to make any sense.
It's about, yeah, it's about 3 feet tall.
Okay. And what's its formation? How does it present itself?
Like a horrible Microsoft caricature that they had back in the day.
Okay. Does it have a gender? It might not.
No.
Okay. And what's its character or personality like?
Kind of goofy. Not like not not malice.
And what does it want? If it could say, what I want is, what would it say? What I want is, doesn't have to make any sense.
What do you want?
What I want is, we could also ask, what is your purpose? What is its purpose?
What is your purpose?
Again, just whatever comes up.
Freedom.
And what's its relationship with freedom?
What's your relationship with freedom? What's your relationship with freedom? Just says nothing. Literally, that's why it said nothing.
How did it get to be here?
How did you get to be here? Protection.
And how does it protect you?
How does it protect me? Filter. It says it's a filter.
What does it filter? What does it filter?
What do you filter?
Or how does it filter?
Bad stuff.
What kind of bad stuff does it filter?
What you don't need.
How does it feel about you?
Love.
And how is it for you to be loved by this energy?
Good. It feels like this green blob is here to give me some protection and some, I guess, some guidance in a way.
What does the green blob most deeply need for itself?
For yourself.
I could say what's its deepest, most vulnerable need?
What's your most vulnerable need? I'm not getting anything like as far as like a word, but bright purple and I'm dizzy.
So deepest needs are usually a high resonance, like love, safety, compassion, freedom, connection, truth. What is its deepest, most vulnerable need?
Its most vulnerable need.
If it could create a word, the bright purple and dizzy is an attempt. If it could be more clear, that would be helpful. Because we're here to be helpful. We want to tell it we're here to be helpful.
I'm hearing love.
Mm.
And I'm also getting like almost like like a symbol of flying, like wings flying.
And is the green blob aware of your guides?
Yeah.
And how do the guides feel about the green blob?
They're connected.
And how is it for the green blob to be connected with the guides?
Different.
What's different about its connection?
It feels like they're not working against each other right now. It's like I could see them almost like holding hands around me. Before it was Michelangelo and Michael Pock behind my back, protecting me, and the green blob is in front of me, to the right side of me here, and it's like they're almost in almost a full circle around me, connected.
And how is it for the green blob to be connected in this way?
It seems happy. It feels trusted.
And how is it for it to be trusted and seen and even appreciated in this way?
For me, it's cool. Yeah, it does feel very different for me as well. Where once it was the working against each other, so now I'm almost becoming a team.
And how did they work against each other? And how are they a team now?
I feel like there was blockage with the green blob, stopping messages coming through, and questioning those messages, right? So I think it was that on the front side. And now it almost feels like they're working together to make sure that I get the most accurate information. But they're all here for me.
And
maybe a little bit more collaboration.
okay. So I wonder if you can sense or feel or imagine the very first time you felt the green blob in your life. It's probably a younger, maybe even a child part of yourself. And it's not really memory, it's just whatever comes up. So what comes up when I offer that possibility? The very first time you felt this particular kind of protection? When was the first time you felt this particular green blob energy in your life?
Back when I was a kid in school, school bus. And
how
like
old?
just
Good.
young, like kindergarten. I
Kindergarten.
think it's like the first time like I left my parents to go to school on a bus.
And how old is that boy? 5?
Yeah.
So I wonder, Matt, if you can sense or feel or imagine your best adult self as you are today, right now, and connected with this circle of guides. And we're going to step across historic and psychological time and into the school bus with that little boy. And we want to make ourselves known to him. And we want to tell him we are here to help him, that we have come from present time. And he doesn't need to be alone anymore. That we want to bring him into connection with these guides and teachers and your own adult self so that he can be loved, protected, and cared for in the way he's always needed. How is it for him to hear that?
Reassuring.
Does he know who you are?
Yes.
And how do you feel about that little boy?
He's all right. Uh,
And how does he feel about you?
He's proud of me.
Hmm. How is it for you to feel him being proud of you?
Pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. So
Mhm. So we want to bring him out of this place in historic time and into present time. And maybe to one of the places that you connect with your guides in non-ordinary reality. Place that's beautiful and powerful and very safe. Where would you bring him, Matt?
he's gonna go to the lower world, hang out with Pac.
Is this the place with the 3 tree stumps?
Yet
Mm.
it's also where my tree is.
Your tree?
So the fire. Yeah, there's a fire, the 3 tree stumps,
Mhm.
Pac's wigwam, and then to the left there's a big tree.
Beautiful. And how does it feel for the little boy to be here in this very safe and sacred place?
Satisfying,
And we want to let him know
peaceful.
he can do whatever he wants here. He can rest or make himself more comfortable. He can explore or interact with any of the elements here. Anything that happens here is for his own healing, transformation, and highest good. He can go to tree, be with the fire. What would he like to do here?
Sit by the fire.
And
Wants to hang out with Pac.
Mm-hmm. And how does Puck feel about him?
He likes him.
Mhm.
I wish I could have taught you sooner.
All time is present time, and here we are now. Is there anything he wants to do or communicate or teach the boy right now?
Have faith.
How is it for the boy to hear? Have faith.
Conflicting a bit.
Mhm.
Good to hear. But again, comes back to trust.
Mhm. And how, well, what is the boy's relationship with trust?
Just always questioning things, like
Mhm.
and not sure what to believe.
Mhm. And can Puck help him to discern what to believe and what not to believe?
Yes, you can.
And how will Puck help him?
By guiding him, just by reassuring him,
Mhm.
showing him.
Mhm. And how is the boy to consider that?
He likes it.
Mhm. And what's good about this boy?
kind-hearted, energetic, playful.
And how is it for him to be seen so positively by you?
He's smiling.
And so, does this boy want to stay in the lower world with Puck? Or does he want to come and be with you in your life today? You'll have access to him either way. And he'll have access to Puck either way.
He wants to stay there.
Okay. And is there anything else that wants to be done or communicated with this boy or with Puck before we come back?
No, they seem good over here.
Mm-hmm. And so bringing your awareness back to the circle, I want to call it the circle of trust around you with your guides. Mm-hmm. And what's happening with the green blob?
Kind of merging in with my other guides behind me. So I feel like this expanding energy
Mm-hmm.
and almost merging energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was in the front right of me here is no longer there, and it's all behind my head now.
And how is it to feel that in your body?
Good. It feels really good.
Mm-hmm. And so, is this energetic or spiritual configuration trustworthy?
Yeah, it feels really good. It feels almost stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't usually get these, like it feels like really big waves of energy behind my head and back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there is more of a nicer feel of this energy right now.
Mm-hmm. And so we want to ask Puck or the green blob that may be merged now, Michelangelo or Michael, Owl or Bobcat. Is there anything they want to do or communicate with you about growing in trust of that which is trustworthy?
Stay on the path and dedicate more time.
Hmm. And how do they suggest that you dedicate more time?
Meditation came right away.
Mm-hmm.
Books, like a visual of a book just showed.
Mm-hmm.
I keep on yelling about water.
And what about water?
Drink more. Just
Mm-hmm.
so 10. They want. So they said the other day, and again, I just get like 10 fingers in my face, 10 a day.
Okay.
So they want to pick up my water intake.
Anything else that wants to be done or communicated to be complete with this for right now?
I got a picture of a walnut.
And you can ask them for clarification. What are they showing you?
It's diet.
Hmm? Do you eat nuts?
Yeah, not walnuts though.
Okay.
But yeah, I do have nuts. And way too much coffee.
So when you're ready, Matt, bring all this back with you. Remembering everything fully. And open your eyes when you feel ready.
I feel ready. I'm good.
Okay. So what do you think about that?
It felt good. I've it was really like when we first started, I did not ever feel that much energy coming at me, which is really, really interesting. It's just like I've called my spirit guides before and they come a lot like they just did there, but the rush of energy came in so heavy that just like was overwhelming and beautiful.
Mhm.
And to the point where it made me tear. So that was really cool. And yeah, I felt like the journey was good. It felt like in the middle there, I kind of had like a almost a point of where I was hearing things or seeing things, and I started questioning myself like right away, like, ah, yeah, right, okay, is that real? Is that real? But I mean, it felt like that was it, so I felt really good.
So the part of yourself that questions, is this real?
Hmm.
What's your relationship with that part of yourself? Or with that question? What does it mean if something's real?
Just, is it made up or not? Like, is this like, truly a message or the feeling of, I guess, higher self or another spirit, or is this something that is driven by ego or some type of subconscious thing that's happened in the past?
So I think, so there's different ways to be with that question. And I think for you, that is actually an important question because there's multiple, you're asking actually really good questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you answer? I think, is it real is actually not a helpful question. I don't think that's,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's it's a little bit too broad and blank
Yeah.
of a question because all the other questions that you asked after it are much more mature, subtle questions. Is this my internet?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why my internet's unstable, but anyway, so
I'm sorry. You broke. There's a lot of lag there for a second. Oh, I
yeah,
think it's coming back right now. I'm sorry. I lost you for like about maybe 30 seconds or so, but just I heard that it's not a good question. Is it real?
is it real
Because
is
it's
not a
very
good
surface
question.
level.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's too
And
much of
then
a black and white question, yes or no.
yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
it's like asking if my friend is good or not good. Like we all have all kinds, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so all the other questions you ask though, where does this come from? Is it trust? Like how useful is this information?
Hmm.
Is this coming from my ego or is this? So those questions, those are valuable questions of discernment.
Hmm.
And I think in any circumstance, because we are complicated, I think it's important to ask those questions. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
people who are like, the guides told me to do this. I'm always like, oh yeah. Because there's a lack of responsibility in that. Like, we're here just like, so I can see stuff and I can hear stuff and I can taste stuff and I can feel stuff and I have past experience and I have intelligence. Like, I have all these different systems that give me my perspective and decision making in any circumstance. Right. And they all, like, a food can look good, but if it smells bad, there's a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole lot of different, somebody might have put poison in it. I don't know. So there's a whole bunch of different things. So this is, from my perspective, not about abdicating self-responsibility. This is about actually adding to our resources for power and information to actually empower and mature us and allow us to take even more responsibility. Does that make sense? It's not, this is about expanding in complexity in a lot of ways.
It does, yeah.
Right? So it's not, it's so the either or questions, and that's some of what we expand out of is, I think the better question is this useful?
I love that question. Yeah, I'm definitely going to start using that a lot more.
Yeah, that I think is much better question. Is this useful information? Is this helpful? Is this useful? Right? Is better.
Okay.
Because real or not real, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, like, if we think about physics, how real is this thing? This is actually 99% space of whirling protons, electrons, and neutrons gathered together in a particular formation that's impermanent. How real is this thing? I don't know. We can, we want to get into physics about reality. It doesn't take long before it all starts to fall apart. So how is it so if we ask that question right now, in this experience you just had, is this useful? What just happened?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
Whoa!
110%. Yes. Very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's useful. So now, and this is something, so this is a tool if you choose to use it. And I want to notice how, like, you have a lot of information that will come through. Right? And obviously this green blob came very early when you started to move out into the world, like, oh, there's all kinds of information that you're going to get, and it's protecting you from that, right? Which is probably really good, right? Because you weren't, there was no training for the level of empathy and openness that you have. We don't train people in our culture until here we are training you now. But
finally.
So you get physical information, you get intellectual information. You were told about books, you were told to drink more water, you were suggested, you might want to eat some more walnuts, right? There's some diet information suggested to meditate. Those are very practical. And now you have this configuration behind you, like you just called that in. Took you like 5 seconds, right? 5-10 seconds to call that in. Like, so you can practice with that. If it's not useful, don't use it. But if it's useful, you might want to use it and see what happens when you hold that and open up yourself for this kind of information. Again, is it useful? Is it helpful?
Okay. Definitely. As we're talking, I'm getting they're saying still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's so basically, call them in.
Call them in. It's always available to us. It's kind of like, it's like a radio. Like, we can turn the radio on. The radio can be off. There's always something playing.
Yeah.
If we're willing to tune into it. And again, we can tune into lots of different things. I mean, this is a pretty good configuration that you have, right? So don't know if there's any more. So this is the way I look at it, is that, again, I'll use the radio analogy, is that my work as a human in my development is to be able to tune myself, to be able to hold more power and more frequency, and to be the clearest ability to be able to hear what's coming through, and to decide what I want to tune into. Do I want to tune in to like hate talk radio, or do I want to turn into classical music, or do I want to turn into listening to Ram Dass, or do I want to can tune into lots of different things. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we get to choose. That's some of the discernment of what is optimal to kind of choose to tune into, like this book or drinking more water. Yeah.
Well, this was awesome, Renee. I
Awesome,
can't believe how much energy I felt, and it was really cool.
Awesome. It was so great to have you, and thank you so much for your time and sharing your process. And if you want to do more work, reach out to me again.
Okay, we'll do. Absolutely.
Okay. Blessings on your path.
Thanks. Same to you.